Welcome to Forbes Newsroom. Joining me now is Matt Dureau, a reporter on the wealth team here at Forbes. Matt, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, so on this election night, I want to talk about billionaire donors specifically in this midterm cycle. So, who have been some of those top donors?
Yeah, so in terms of billionaire donors this election cycle, we've seen more than 400 billion billionaires donate nearly $1 billion, which is a record for an election cycle. A lot of that giving has been concentrated in the hands of a few, mostly aligned with the Republicans, but both sides have had some representation, that's for sure.
So, who are some of the candidates that are receiving these donations?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So the way that a lot of these billionaires do these giving is they'll dump a huge chunk of change into a super PAC, either aligned with the Republican Party or the Democratic parties, and then those super PACs will kind of spread their money somewhat evenly, but concentrated towards the most competitive races. So, yeah, that's how it's going.
Cool. And so, who are some of those billionaires that are donating the most?
Sure. So on the Republican side of things, the U-Lines, a Chicago-based packaging billionaires, they've donated together about $70 million to a number of Republican-focused super PACs, husband and wife, Dick and Elizabeth U-Line. Ken Griffin, the CEO of Citadel, is right behind them, also backing Republicans. On the Democratic side of things, probably won't be surprised to hear George Soros is right up at the top, having donated over $100 million to Democratic supporting PACs. And then sort of a newcomer to the political scene this year, crypto billionaire Sam Bankman-Fried ended up giving about $40 million to a bunch of primarily Democratic leaning super PACs.
But there is one billionaire that Forbes reported that hasn't given any of his own money. Who is that?
That's correct. Then that's the former president, Donald Trump, who has certainly helped out a bunch of Republican candidates with his nominations. And he's, used his name power to raise nearly $100 million from his supporters and funneled some of that money to his favorite candidates. But he himself hasn't donated any money to any of the candidates. And he's actually the first billionaire, I guess back when he was running for president in 2020, he actually became the first billionaire presidential candidate not to donate any money to his own campaign. So it's not completely unprecedented for him, and it's also aligned with how he did business all these years, loading up on debt to fuel his real estate empire. So interesting, but not totally surprising.
So, has he ever donated money to a candidate?
If he has, it's been in very small amounts. I think just looking at the FEC database and searching the name Trump, including him, his ex-wives, his kids, you find something like $3 million worth of results dating back to the 70s. And, there's a lot of false positives in there because, people can write any name that they want on these campaign contribution forms, and they do. And Donald Trump is a popular person to impersonate when it comes to that.
So, you talked earlier about his name power, and so he is using that name power to send money to candidates, even though that's not his own money. Can you describe the Save America PAC and what that is?
Sure. Yeah. So the Save America PAC is the leadership PAC that he organized to basically fundraise from his supporters. And he set that up right after he lost the 2016 election and has been basically fundraising off of his name ever since. It's raised about $100 million. And until recently, hadn't spent very much of that up until about a month ago when it transferred $20 million to another PAC called Make America Great Again. Which in turn has started to direct some of that money to Senate candidates and basically the 5 closest races.
So, who are some of these candidates that are receiving this money?
Sure. So Adam Laxalt in Nevada, J.D. Vance in Ohio, a few others. I believe Ron Johnson in Wisconsin, pretty precisely pinpointed that the 5 or so Senate races considered to be, if any are considered toss-ups, those would be the 5 or so.
So this isn't his money, but when Trump announced his candidacy back in 2016, he said, quote, "I don't need anybody's money." So what changed?
Well, a lot changed and pretty quickly. He, to his credit, did spend just over $60 million on his 2016 run, but, did end up taking in over $200 million from other sources. So those words rang a little empty back then, and even more so now, I would say.
So is Trump saving any of this money for a potential announcement or a potential 2024 bid?
I guess only he could tell you that, whether he plans to, use this money to continue to support other candidates, or whether he might, in fact, use it for his own individual purposes going forward. It seems like he's hinted in the last few days at a potential run. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what comes about with that.
I'm excited to see how it all unfolds. Matt Rowe, thank you so much.